Welcome into this week's edition of the WTOL 11 Weather Hangout. It's great to have you with us. You can see the fall leaves behind us. October is officially upon us. It's fall. We've got the leaves coming down and lots of fall fun across the 419 and some cooler weather to go along with it.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for it, honestly. I wouldn't say I'd like the 30s, but the 50s, I can deal with the 50s during the day. Like, I love having a hoodie on and some sweatpants. It just feels
hoodie weather is the best. We've gotten some beautiful afternoons with the 70s these last few days. Of course, we're going to be talking about frost later on, but beautiful fall colors also. Are you starting to see the leaves change as well?
Maybe a little bit on the edges or some of those early trees, but I haven't caught a lot of color yet. And usually it's kind of this like second weekend of October. That's kind of my mental time frame that I typically
Still a couple weeks away, and southern Michigan's definitely getting the turnover a little quicker, and then the further south you live, the later it happens. But fall is upon us, and October is here. Good to have you all with us for the Weather Hangout.
It always seems like for the Weather Hangouts, as we're doing this, it seems summer outside. I was just outside before we did this. And it's sunny, it's 75.
Nice.
I'm thinking about, grilling, being on the patio.
And
then we talk about how that's going to change.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, so we were talking about Matt doing those fall activities and even behind the scenes, because John, you kind of work a different schedule sometimes than us. So I've been, Matt, like, what have you been doing? And he's like, I haven't, seen anything.
We're giving him a hard time for not making the most of fall in the Midwest.
Oh, man.
Truly one of the best seasons around here and lots of fun to do. We got the apple orchards, the pumpkin patches, the corn mazes, and we're holding you to it, Matt. You got to check everything off the list here.
I think we have our checklist here, so
hopefully we can zoom out. Yeah, there a little bit. So I made this yesterday for Matt, and I was like, okay, here's the list that you have to do. So he does have a green check mark.
Yeah, I have one check mark.
I will give you that.
We're good.
I will give you that. Okay, so high school football weather you experienced. So tell us about it.
It was nice out. Like I think it was a couple of weeks ago. It was mid 60s and dropped into the 50s, but it was absolute nice out. Perfect football weather, in my opinion.
Okay, good. So check on that. What do you think is going to be the next thing on the list?
I think probably apple picking.
Okay.
And then, I could possibly knock two birds out with one stone with the apple picking also cider mill, right? So I think
those two go hand in hand, and nothing like a fresh cup of cider on a fall day.
Yeah.
Hot cider or cold cider, can't go wrong.
I think I'm gonna do cold. I don't know how I feel about the hot
I'm with
cider.
you there. Cold apple cider, very refreshing.
Guys, hot cider.
Do you like hot cider?
Yeah.
I mean, we're just thinking today it's 75 degrees out. Yeah. Maybe this weekend when it cools down a little bit, some hot cider.
Okay. Yeah. I could go either way, but I lean to hot cider. Of course, the corn maze is on there.
I'm still terrified about that, but we're
there's
gonna try
not
it.
scary ones though here in the 419. So yeah, there's plenty of those that you can do that aren't scary. Pumpkin patch.
Okay, I'm excited for that as well.
Yeah, I know I'm gonna get a pumpkin. I always get one.
Oh yeah. Do you carve it or just decorate it, or what's your strategy?
I've actually carved it the last 2 years.
Okay.
I've done some carving. Nice. Of course, it had been a while. I had taken a break there from childhood years to carving, but I wanted to bring it back. That's always a fun thing to do.
It is fun to get in the spirit and to put out some decorations and really get festive in the fall. I'm not much of a pumpkin carver, but I can at least go get a pumpkin. And
so you can pick out the perfect bright orange one.
Yeah, I feel like you see those beautifully decorated pumpkins online, and then when I actually try to do it myself, it just looks like a squirrel got into it.
Well, sometimes it happens. I know there's been times I've been carving and I'm like, oh, well, now we're going to have to carve this out too.
Again.
So we understand your
roll with the punches.
We'll have to get some lessons on it for sure.
We'll have to go. Maybe we could get a group deal on how to carve pumpkins.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think the last part is pretty much the fall, planting the fall leaves, pretty much. But speaking of that, have you seen like some of these videos coming in of some of the fall leaves we've been seeing up in Michigan?
Yeah, way up north, the fall foliage is already really beautiful and vibrant. We've got some videos showing you that fall color. Wow. Drone footage always looks really beautiful. Still some green on there, but also some reds and some oranges. And this drone footage over the forestry in the Schoolcraft, Michigan area showing the changing autumn colors on Tuesday. Really beautiful. Up north, they get an earlier peak of fall foliage, and especially with the lake in the background. I don't know if that's Lake Superior, but I have seen some gorgeous fall colors up near Lake Superior. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, I always love kind of going up there if I had the chance to go, and you get those, nice pockets of color. And you can see they're not quite to peak there, so there's some time if you want to go for a vacation and do a little bit of touristry.
Leaf peeping.
Yeah, exactly.
It is fun to plan a trip around looking at the fall foliage, and last year we had such a late turnover of the fall colors. In fact, Halloween rolled around last year and it was still green on the leaves. This year is going to be a really vibrant year, I expect, due to the weather pattern we've gotten. Yeah, you really lucked out this year, Matt. We've gotten the cool nights, the sunny days, just those perfect ingredients for lots of fall colors. And we're still 2 to 3 weeks out from our peak here in Northwest Ohio, but it's going to be gorgeous when it arrives.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I want to actually see it because in Baton Rouge, we don't see like foliage probably till like late November, even in December.
Wow.
So it takes a while down south for any foliage to happen.
And the colors maybe are going to be a little more vivid with a little more cooler air here. So hopefully we can put on a good show for Matt.
Yeah.
And then you can jump in a leaf pile. And
jump in a leaf pile. Hopefully not a wet leaf pile.
No.
We haven't really gotten any rain, so
Yeah, so you'll still be good, but of course, hopefully the Leafs put on a good show, and hopefully we do too. We're talking about not my favorite topic, cold weather, frosty conditions.
Better go grab Diane's blanket.
Yeah, hold on, I have a blanket back there in the weather center. So I'll have to go get that with the information you guys are talking about for today.
Yep, we're gonna get to that frost in just a couple minutes, but first of all, we wanna start off with one of our weather quiz questions. We'll give you a few seconds to answer the question, and we'll join you back on the other side of things, discussing this weekend's frost and the fall chill that is ahead. Welcome back in. I'm sure you've heard of chlorophyll before. That is the green pigment that we see during the spring and the summer months. All those other pigments, the oranges, the reds, the purples, those are on the leaves year-round. But when the weather gets cooler, what we see is the chlorophyll production slows down and those other pigments really become vivid and vibrant. This weekend, we are still forecasting an autumn frost. Low temperatures are going to drop down to the 30s, especially Saturday morning. That is going to be the coldest day we have felt since the spring. If you live in southeastern Michigan, say Hillsdale and Lenawee counties, temperatures could get dangerously close to that freezing mark. And this is what we call a damaging frost. If you do have any outdoor plants in that garden that you want to salvage, you can cover them up or bring in the potted plants that may be affected by those frosty weather conditions. Here are a few tips and pointers when we do get that early season frost. Best location to bring those potted plants is going to be a garden room. The garage is always a little bit warmer, and that's a good place. The conservatory or a greenhouse that is free of frost when temperatures dip down to the low 30s. Just a few places you can bring those plants to keep them safe and protected. And if you can't bring them in, cover them up with a warming blanket to make sure that they're not impacted by the frosty weather conditions. Now, plants can tolerate temperatures as low as about 40 degrees, and 36 is an important number. That is the number we associate with a frost occurring. Whenever we get below 36, that is a danger to all plants, and that is the number we often associate with frosty weather. Now, this weekend, we're forecasting temperatures to get well below that number. For the Toledo Metro, I'm forecasting 34 Saturday morning. And of course, if you live north of Toledo, say up towards Hillsdale, even west of Toledo in Pioneer or Hillsdale, could be dealing with some 32-degree temperatures. Normal first frost is October 6th, so it's not too far out of the question to get that frost this time of year. Here's a first look at some of those temperatures Saturday morning. Of course, Lake Erie is going to save areas like Sandusky and Port Clinton with 40s on the board due to the mild lake temperatures. However, still going to be in the 30s in the Toledo Metro. West of Toledo, north of Toledo, could get down into the lower 30s with frosty weather conditions. And we've got Matt Willoughby here as well. Good to have you back with us, Matt, explaining frost and the science behind it.
Yeah, exactly, John. So yeah, speaking of that, I'm going to pretty much tell you what you can expect in the formulas we have for frost. So you need that air temperature just around 36 degrees. And as that colder air sinks, you need that ground temperature just around 32 degrees. So what comes up after that? Well, pretty much any water molecules that come down from the air and eventually touches that frozen surface, well, that's when you can get frost on those plants and even grass as well. And they'll pretty much freeze in what we like to call ice crystals. But what else do you also need as far as in the atmosphere? Well, here's how it goes. What you need is clear skies. So how that works is, If you have cloudy skies at night, well, at night that heat will pretty much go back into the atmosphere. But if you have that blanket of clouds, well, it kind of just goes back and forth between the clouds and back to the surface, that is. So as you can tell, it kind of acts as pretty much a blanket for those areas to pretty much to see any clouds or anything like that. So like I said, as we go throughout pretty much today, you can see that those clouds are pretty much a blanket for that. And even as we go into, as far as clear skies go, well, that's going to be the perfect ingredient for any cooler temperatures to happen for tonight or as we go into Saturday as well. So some cooler temperatures, we'll likely see that with some of those cooler temperatures. Even clear skies will cause some cooler temperatures out there. But before we go to our next part, we'll be talking about how baby weather affects wine. Before that is look up that weather fact.
That sounds really chilly. An average low of -67 degrees. Sounds like I'd have the heated blanket, the fireplace, the furnace. I'd have everything going at night to keep me warm. But thankfully, we don't have those kind of cool temperatures here in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. Now, long though before this chilly forecast that we've been talking about, some of our local farmers had to harvest their crop before we were even thinking the thought of frost. And thankfully, that was, well, in September when we had some warmer weather. Now, though wheat, corn, and soybeans are popular around here, the grape crop can thrive locally as well. I visited a local winery a few weeks ago to see how the weather affects wine. Galileo said wine is sunlight, but if you ask Bob Utter, he says
wine is sunshine in a bottle.
As grape harvest is wrapped up for the season at Flying Otter Winery in Adrian, sunshine was important for the harvest.
You need enough growing degree days, that is enough warmth and sunshine, to fully ripen the grapes, develop the flavors, to get the acids down.
The grapes won't completely turn sweet as they will be harvested with some acids remaining to balance the chemistry of the wine. The weather does not just affect the flavor, but the quantity as well.
Overall, it's been good. You know, the early part of the summer where we had all the heat put some stress on the vines, and that's reduced the size of our crop a little bit.
Though Southeast Michigan may seem a world away from the popular wine country of France, Utter has done his homework, learning to speak the language.
I'm a firm believer in terroir. So that's the French word for the wine is the expression of its entire growing environment. You know, the weather, the sun, the rain, the soil, the wind, everything has an impact on the final wine.
It's amazing how much our weather can affect not only our, well, normal crops that we see in the fields, but also that grape harvest. Now, the harvest was completed back in September, and now we don't have to worry about frost because, well, if it nips the vines, that's okay, as the team there at Flying Otter is, well, they're just going to trim those vines back at the end. They do that at the end of every season. So a little more work for them, and thankfully they don't have to worry about the frost potential that we're running here for the weekend. Now, of course, we have another fun fact because we still have more of the WTOL 11 Weather Hangout still to come. It is fall. whether we're ready or not. But it's also the same for astronomical fall as well. So that started on the 22nd, I believe, right?
Yep, meteorological fall, of course, makes nice logical sense with 3-month blocks. However, astronomical fall, I think, often falls more in line with when the weather starts to change over. Because September 1st, it was still very warm and humid outside. And then by late September, you start to get that fall chill.
Yeah, and it helps, like you said, it makes more logical sense when we're calculating and able to come up with those average lows, average highs, and maybe make those normals for what we would expect.
We're weather nerds. We like data. We like things neatly organized.
Yeah, that 3-month pretty much time period to separate the 12 months as well. So
Yep.
yeah, definitely, I feel like definitely more organized than we like to hope for. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it easier. Now, we do have some videos to talk about, like we always do, and some of those videos, we have a wide variety for you today. So let's bring up that first one. Of course, last week we talked about Hurricane Ian, and that exploded into southwest Florida, and that was last Wednesday we actually saw that make landfall, and it was carving quite the trail there through the state of Florida, of course, leaving quite a bit of devastation, many families and friends being impacted before, once again, that storm made landfall in the Carolinas over the weekend. They had 12-foot storm surge that flattened parts of Fort Myers, Florida, and the surrounding area. Of course, it will be days before authorities can really evaluate the cost of what they had as far as property damage and also lives that have been lost. Florida insurance claims they estimate could be close to $50 billion, and we have those boats there. It's kind of like a parking lot for boats, and that's not on the water, so that's not where they should be.
Yeah, exactly. And if you need any hurricane relief, we talked about this last week. Some good organizations, of course, Red Cross for any hurricane relief. If you would like to donate any money, of course, to DLC of Toledo, we're pretty much collecting any funds to help down there as well.
Right, both organizations are doing their part to send in that money, of course, and of course Red Cross and the Diocese of Toledo, both trustee organizations. There's a lot of other organizations that are doing collections as well, so make sure you check them out, though. We want to make sure that your money is getting to the folks there in Florida and the Carolinas.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how many local groups and local folks are helping out down south, because you know, we talk about the hurricane, and even months afterwards, it's not over. You know, these lives are impacted forever, and it's something we can't forget about and got to keep following up on, helping and offering whatever we can in our time and resources.
Exactly.
Yep, also the Nebraska National Forests and Grasslands Organization, on to our next video, reported a major wildfire at the Bessie Ranger District near Halsey on Sunday. Wow, look at that. According to officials, the fire is moving very rapidly, and has gone past Highway 2. The campgrounds near the area must have been evacuated, along with the village of Halsey. Certainly lots of wildfires this season, and really staggering to see that. Of course, crews can only fight so fast, and you know, they put certain chemicals on there to try to slow the spread, and ultimately, if it's an uncontained wildfire, that is the worst case scenario. But once they do start to get it contained, it starts to shrink and diminish a little bit.
Yeah,
and like you had mentioned, just even looking at the size and scale of that fire, if they're uncontained, just how devastating that can be.
Yeah, those are becoming all too common.
Yeah, and we have our last video here. It kind of looks like a movie a little bit. Thousands of people are without power as a dust storm moved from west into the parts of Phoenix area on Monday afternoon. So strong gusty winds hit the valley, including Paradise Valley, Tempe, and even south of Phoenix. Residents saw pretty much wind gusts up to 62 miles per hour just around 4 p.m. Meanwhile, other cities saw just around 30 to 35 mile per hour wind gusts that kind of caused some damage around the valley area into Phoenix. So some roofs were even ripped off with this. So man, yeah, definitely some. I also saw a few tornadoes even in Arizona at the same time.
Yeah, that's crazy. You don't always think of severe weather as happening in the Southwest. You know, 62 miles an hour, that is the equivalent of a severe thunderstorm wind gust that we get in the Midwest, but our winds don't blow dust around. That's insane.
Yeah.
Not good.
I'm glad we don't have a dusty climate here.
Yeah.
You can kind of just see it's one messy and, yeah, and we have a lot of wind to just have that kind of dust.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
An
Definitely.
issue.
Got to take a couple of trips to the car wash after that as well.
Right. That thought did cross my mind, Matt. Because even with it being harvest here at home, I noticed I was driving and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have a little dust because they were combining soybeans. It was.
But it's nice that we've got a dry fall harvest, at least compared to last year where farmers really couldn't get much done with how much rain and water we got. So I'm sure that's appreciated to have those nice sunny, mild days.
Yeah, I'd much rather have the sun and the great weather for the farmers. I can go to the car wash anytime.
There you go.
Oh, man.
Well, thank you again for joining us for another week of the WTOL 11 Weather Hangout.
Yeah.
Of course, we have more products on WTOL 11 Plus, like...
Yep, Climate Friday coming this week. We talked last week about the impacts of climate change on hurricanes and tropical cyclones. And this week, we'll talk a little bit more about fall foliage and is climate change affecting our fall colors? And of course, next week, Wednesday, we'll have a follow-up to Matt, who's got to knock off a few of those
Got to do my
checklist items.
checklist. So tune in next week for episode 5 of the Weather Hangout. Hopefully, I can have 2 or 3 things knocked off my list for next week.
We're going to hold you to it.
Yeah, please hold me to it.
Yep. Hope we'll see you next week.